There's only one boss in this place, and that's me. The HNIC.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Indie Comics Dispatch, our very first interview of 2021. I'm very excited to kick this year off with Constant Hustle Comics. Lawrence, welcome, man.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How were your holidays? How was your New Year?
Holidays were good. New Year's ago, I'm a square, so I was home for all that. So
me too.
If I wasn't at work, I was home. So yeah.
That's me. We got 7 kids. Going out and partying for like New Year's Eve and all that just doesn't really work for us.
Right. Well, I only got 3, but still, yeah, same thing.
Yeah. So where are you based out of? What city? What state?
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Wow. That's one thing I never ask enough people because it's just so interesting where everybody's located at, and I never think to ask everybody that.
Right.
Hey, I see Concrete Comics and Fog Breaker Studios are in the comments on Instagram. Hey guys, how you doing? So Lawrence, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about Constant Hustle Comics. Give us your origin story to get started with.
I have a filmmaking background. I've always been a writer, and I had a filmmaking background to where I wrote and produced some small movies, and I've always had a love for comics. Not doing any scripts recently or anything like that for movies. A few years ago, I was frustrated with the movie scene and wanted to do something else. I always have to continue to write, so I wanted to do something else. So it just happens right at that time I was reading an article about how you could independently publish comic books, which I had absolutely no idea you could possibly do. So I read the article, and then I picked up my first independent comic, which is Epic by Dark City Comics, Lonnie Lowe and all his team over there, and who's now with Short Fuse, by the way. I picked up Epic and I read that first issue, and I was like, man, I've got to get into this. I was immediately hooked into it, and wanted to be part of this whole community, wanted to get this whole thing going. So I reached out to Lonnie Lowe about how he did it, what he did, and everything like that. And to his credit, he was gracious enough to give me the complete rundown, beginning to end. Awesome. This is what you have to do from here to there. Once you have these things done, then come back to me and we'll talk from there. And I got those things done, and then he continued to help me. And then I picked up the ball and ran with it from there. And here we are right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's one thing, like, I too, like, before I really got into indie comics, I said this somewhere before, I don't remember where, maybe on my website, I don't know. But, like, to me, indie comics was this guy in the parking lot of my comic book store as a teenager trying to sell the comics he made with colored pencil, you know, like.
Right.
That's what I thought of. And then when I finally, it was actually, I think Concrete Comics was the first one I saw that was like a real well done indie comic. And I was like, holy shit, this is indie? I too was
really cool.
They are, yeah. They're all right. I mean, they're okay. No, I'm just joking. If Lonzo's still out there watching, we much love for you, Lonzo. So another indie comic creator wants to stoke the fire a little bit. Name some of these movies. We want to know these credits.
I'd rather not. I'd rather not name any of the movies because unfortunately they were. Well, I shouldn't say they were all that bad. A few of them I don't want anybody to ever see ever. But there's a few that were done well, but it's different from movies and comics because in movies it's a collaborative effort, but everybody needs to be on board when you know. If I say, oh yeah, you can go to these links, they might be upset that I didn't consult them first. In comics, if I'm Constant Hustle Comics, then I can say, go here, check out this, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very cool. And that speaks even more to the collaborative nature of the comic community too, that you can you can put stuff out there and people aren't going to be mad about it.
Right, right. Well, I think the part of indie comics that gets me the most is the fact that nobody wants to put out something that they're not proud of. That because it's going to last. Excuse me. It's going to last forever. You don't want your name attached to something that may be good now but may not be good in a year. So it is my opinion that indie comics tend to take a lot more pride in what they're doing. Some of them because they want to try to use it as a stepping stone into major comics.
Yep.
Others because it's your name attached to it. Our names attached to it. We don't want to be part of anybody's anything. We are part of what we are. Yep. So we take the time and pride that we take with our books because we want them to last forever. Like I heard a phrase not long ago that said, you have to take the time to be exceptional. And that's what we do.
I love that. And it's true. Like some of my most favorite, I'm not sure that's correct grammar, but anyway, some of my favorite indie comics are from the early 90s, late 80s. Reggie Byers put out one called Jam Quacky that like nobody's ever heard of. I love it, and it's still out there, and I managed to get all the copies of it, and it's all 3 issues of it. And it's just, you're right, things live on, especially in the time of eBay and stuff like that. You may put out one comic, maybe print 100 issues. Those 100 issues are going to live on. Eben from Larry Fuller, it was the first kind of recognized as the first indie black comic. There's probably less than 100 copies of it out there, but people clamor over this. And that was from the early 70s. I mean,
right.
Now it's going to stay out there.
Oh yeah, and the indie community. Another reason why people don't want to put out lackluster material is because the indie community has a decent amount of people, but it's still small. If you're putting out something substandard, you will hear about it back in one way or another. If somebody giving you a little crap over it or something, you're going to hear something. So your best bet is to put out the best thing that you can. And fortunately for us, we have an amazing team, and we have other companies like Concrete and Wingless and Concept Moon and Short Fuse and Wild Card and all those who we can lean on in the points that we're lacking in. So yeah, we're very fortunate in that way.
That's awesome. So going back to comics in general for a minute, have you always been a fan of comics?
I've been a fan of comics. Well, I'm 46, so I was a fan of comics back when you could buy them at 7-Eleven on the rack right next to the counter. Where they placed them strategically.
That was my first comic book store. Was the local corner gas station. I'd walk down there and buy them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I've been a fan since you could buy them there, and then I used to draw and come up with my own storylines even when I was really young. So I don't know if you ever remember this, but Marvel used to put out a book called The Book of the Dead. Every year. The characters they killed off, they put in a big, thick book about that thick.
Oh, wow.
And I would buy that, and I would learn how to draw from there. And I've been a fan of comics for a long time. My first series that I remember reading was Secret Wars, the one with the Beyonder in it.
Yeah,
that's the first one that everything really started to click in my head for me. But yeah, that was the first series. But I've been buying comics for a very long time.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember. So we lived in kind of the country in a sense. It was a suburb of Nashville, but at that point there was nothing out there, and we lived in this subdivision that was one street, but there was this gas station that was up a little bit, and I could walk to it. It was probably almost a mile away from my house, but I would walk there and I would buy the comic books that they had there, and sometimes the same damn comic books would be there for a month before they get
Yeah.
Sometimes they give the packs where you get like 3 old ones in the pack for like $5 or whatever. Probably less than that.
Right.
I love it when somebody else had a similar like comic book store experience.
Oh yeah,
comic book store, I say.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and I didn't start. The only time I started going to an actual comic book store was when I started buying that Book of the Dead book, and that one, yeah. I had to
Yeah.
ride my bike to that one, and it was miles away. That's back when you could do that. That's back when
Yep.
you got on your bike and rode, and then just came back. At the end of the day, before the streetlights came on, type scenario.
Yep, I remember that. I'm not as old as you quite, but I'm not that far off. So I remember those days too. Dan Schmidt says he remembers that Book of the Dead was part of the Marvel Universe Encyclopedia books.
Yes.
Very cool, Dan. Very
Yes,
cool.
it was. It gave you the picture of them. It gave you their powers. It gave you how they died. It gave you all that stuff. Very informative. I used to love those books, and I would sit there and look over them and figure out how to set up characters. And it was, I used to love
awesome. That's awesome. So, what led you? You kind of said a little bit about it, but I mean, that you found out that you could make your own comics, and so that kind of led you down that path. But what specifically to Constant Hustle? Like, what was Avery your first superhero?
No, actually, the first superhero we came up with doesn't have a book yet.
Oh, really?
It has a character, and we have the storyline, and we have the character designs done, but the first book is not done. The first book we came out with was The Last Line.
Really?
That's the first book we came out with. Okay. And Avery came out shortly after. But so to get these books done, one of the first people I'll tell you how long I've been in the game. I had to look for my artists on Pencil Jack. I don't know how many people out there can say that they're OG like that they say, I used to go on Pencil Jack for my artists. But yes, before you went into deviant art like you do right now and just go find people. No, you had to go to Pencil Jack, put up a post, then you had to weed through everybody on the post to figure out who you liked and who was willing to do this and everything like that. So it was definitely a process. It was a learning process, but what I will say is there is absolutely nothing like getting the first character design for the character that you came up with out of your head, something that you can claim that you came up with on your own, and then that artist sends it to you, all colored, all penciled, all inked. I must have sat there and stared at that thing for I don't know how long. I was at work too. I was at work staring at it in a corner somewhere. It was absolutely amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Something that birthed in your own mind.
That's right.
Made physical.
You pick the right people, and they send it to you, and you could tell they took the time that you needed them to take with it. Yeah, absolutely awesome. Amazing.
So take us through Constant Hustle Comics. What's your current titles? What do you got going on? Go as deep or as surface level as you want. I'm going to pull up your website here too, so we can kind of scroll through and show the.
Boom. We have Constant Hustle Comics is a group of creators, all with the same mindset of putting out quality material, something that lasts forever, and something. None of us are hobbyists. None of us are, like one-trick ponies who just want to put out a book and then be done with it. All of us are storytellers. So that Zero Gravity there is what Charles Simpson, is our art director. That's his book. The Last Line is the first one that we came out with. And we have Avery the Astonishing. We have upcoming books. We have The Astronauts Chosen, that the physical copies are coming out soon. We have SF3 by Dwayne Welch. That's already out. Kickstarter's done. And we're going to be selling digital copies on the site. We have Carnivore by Dwayne Welch. Those copies are being sold on the website right now. And once we finally start doing Comic-Cons again, I'll have physical copies of all these books on my with me or with us at the Comic-Cons themselves.
Nice, very cool. So take us a little bit into each book. Tell everybody what's a little bit about. You said The Last Line was your first kind of book out, so let's start there.
The Last Line, all the books in all the books from Constant Hustle Comics are all made in this universe called the Noir State. And Noir State is comprised of 13 different dimensions. In these 13 different dimensions, there was this humongous war that encompassed all of them called the Carnage. At the end of the Carnage, all the superheroes and most of the supervillains are all dead.
Oh, wow.
So these superheroes that are part of Constant Hustle Comics are part of the new line of superheroes that are out, trying to fill the shoes of the ones that passed before the supervillains make their way back. So
Nice.
in The Last Line, one of the fights during the Carnage between a superhero and a supervillain killed the matriarch of the family. In killing the matriarch of the family, the husband of the family, or patriarch, became a power hunter, which they scour the earth looking for powers that could be given to them by technology or magical artifacts or however they can. And in doing that, his kids come with him, and it covers what happens when they run into the powers that they thought they were looking for.
I loved the first issue of The Last Line.
Thank you very much.
No
I really
problem.
like to hear that.
I've read it. I don't think I've written a review on it. I think I've just done Avery. But I need to do one on The Last Line because I really liked that issue 1.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Avery the Astonishing is about Avery coming into the destiny that was set before her. I don't want to say too much without giving too much away. Avery is the protector, and because of that nature, and because Avery will put themselves in harm's way, she will be bestowed with an ancient power that will move her from hero to icon by the time the first arc is done.
I love it. I love it. Now, issue 1 and 2 of Avery are out, right? Or am I making that up?
Just one.
Just one. Okay.
Yep. Just one of Avery out, and actually finishing up the script for Avery number 2 now.
Nice.
It's gonna be like my my Dark Knight in the go. So it's taking me a little longer to write it.
Awesome. What about Carnivore? Let's hear about Carnivore.
Carnivore is I wish I could put Dwayne on here. He'd be able to tell you better. Carnivore is like an experiment gone awry that the government is trying to put the genie back in the bottle. But Carnivore won't allow it to happen. Carnivore is a hero regardless of looking like a demon. So nice. the first issue covers them trying to recapture Carnivore and Carnivore doing what Carnivore does.
That's awesome. And I think I started that issue too. I've had so many books to read, but I know it's in my read stack, and I think I started reading Carnivore and was really getting into it before the holidays hit.
Dwayne Welch is an amazing writer. We have a lot of great writers. We have a lot of great creators, and everybody. I want to make sure I word this right. There is no story that we come up with that we cannot have done. That's one of the beauties of independent comics. I don't care if you come up with a story about a killer Petunia that gets a suit of armor that makes the Petunia into a horse that wants to fly. The beauty of indie comics is, however you write it, there's an artist. There's definitely an artist out there that's willing to draw it.
Yep.
So that's
the really weird thing is I just read a comic called The Lords of the Cosmos that had a flower character in a suit of armor in it. So you're right.
I'm just saying. There's always somebody.
Letter says, "What's up, Lawrence?" on Instagram, and Joe DeSantos says, "Hey y'all, hey all." I almost said y'all because I'm from the South. Shout out to those guys real quick. Sorry, Lawrence, didn't mean to interrupt you.
What's going on, you guys? Yeah, we have a great lineup of books that are even in 2021 we have a character called Poncho, written by Richard Hahn, and the tagline for Poncho is "God amongst men." Poncho is an experiment. He's experimented on by a group of rogue scientists that try to replace science with, or try to replace God with science. They experiment with a material they find on a meteor, and don't realize that the material that they use gives Poncho direct access to this limitless universe called the dark. And with him being powered from that, he becomes basically a god. But it covers him trying to hone his powers, him trying to still be a good person and still be a human in that aspect, because he has a daughter, he has a wife, but he has to focus, and he also has PTSD because he was in the war. So he has to focus. Think of Matthew Malloy with a background in anti-terrorist tactics, because that's what he did in the war.
Oh wow!
So that's
cool. So when's that one dropping?
We have a mini comic for that coming out actually pretty soon.
Awesome.
I would say within the month, the mini comic will be out, and we'll be putting that out there. Avery has a mini comic coming out that'll be between number 1 and number 2, and we have another mini comic for Child of Nature, which is another character. Naive Stormcloud is like a spirit. Well, she's called an Earth Conjurer. Think of a witch that could use the power of the world to do whatever she needs done. And
this is really cool. Your universe is going to be deep once all this is out. You're gonna
and that's just the stuff that we're talking about right now. I mean, there's Frost Magnus, and he's got a manga, and there's Ashley Cheatham. He's got a manga, and those two, Ashley's manga is running right now on Indiegogo, and it's about it's a Grim Hero is the name of it, and it's about what if the Grim Reaper had to become a superhero. So that's amazing within itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to, I shouldn't say trying, we're diversifying, because I can't, if a creator, like we have 6 or 7 creators, if a creator comes to me with an idea, how can I say, nah, I don't think that's going to work? Because, you know, I mean, you can make anything work, you know, and then at the end of the day, you're creating a world. Just press the I believe button and keep it rolling. No matter what the world is, as long as it's constructed correctly, as long as the story is told effectively, then it won't make a difference. It won't make a difference. They're going to read it. You just told me about the plant with the armor, and you're reading that. So I mean, you know, it's going to work.
Yep. You're right. So let's talk a little bit about the creation there for a moment. Then you said something about as long as it's creative effectively. In your opinion, how do you go about creating a comic effectively and building a world effectively? And that might be a big question, but maybe you can shout out a few kind of tips for people out there.
I think you have to set up rules to your world. Whatever world you're building, you have to set up rules, and then you have to be true to those rules, whatever those rules may be. So there's 13 dimensions. If let's say we have Poncho and the last line in one dimension. If in the Poncho books, Poncho blacks out the sun, then in the next last line book, the sun has to be blacked out. They have to refer to that. As long as you tell a story that is consistent to itself and true to itself, as long as you build a world that, world building and storytelling are 2 entirely different things. You can build a world that's compelling. You can build a world that, you know, people think, oh man, that's a great idea, that they can only do this and they can only do that and they can only do this and they can only do that. That's great. But if the stories are crap that you tell within those worlds, then nobody gives a damn either way. You know, it's like a lot of people, a lot of creators these days are coming out with card games and things like that. And I think it's a great idea if people care about the heroes in the card games.
Mhm.
If nobody's ever heard of them and nobody cares about them, then you are making a game or you are making a device that you could have took money from that and told more stories to the people you're trying to tell stories about.
Yeah.
So
I just had that conversation this morning with a friend, actually. I think it was this morning or last night, about comic creators who kind of get ahead of themselves and want
Right.
to do everything when maybe they don't even have issue 1 out yet, like
right,
take time, create a quality product, and then once you build an audience, once you build a backstory, then branch out.
yeah,
and
that,
yeah,
I like and another creator told me this a while ago. I said I want to create a crossover book within the universe about this or about that, and he's like, that's great, you want to create a crossover book, but if you got 5 people that bought the first book, nobody's going to care if they're in with another book,
right.
or another set of characters.
Yep.
So like I think that Avery is our like premier character.
Mhm.
But I know Avery #1 wasn't written to the best of my ability.
Mm.
That's what's taken me so long with Avery #2. I want it to be where Avery is a flagship character because Avery's stories are told so well, to where people want to be involved in the Avery story because they know it's going to be a quality book.
Yep.
Same thing with every other book we do. So if I'm involved in somebody's project and they say they want to use a character of mine, well, I have to be sure that the story they come up with is worth, not that, I'm dealing with Spider-Man or Superman on our team yet.
Right, exactly.
But we can't have any of our characters in garbage and then wonder how come their single issues aren't selling.
Mhm.
So when we put out The Last Line, I wanted The Last Line to be the premier series of our company because it's based on my family loosely, and in indie writing, you write what you know, and I know my family, so I gave all the characters traits that each one of them is based off of, and I already have a #2 written. It's all penciled and inked and halfway colored. But then I think about it and I'm like, am I doing the best for these characters that I can do? I mean, I don't have unlimited funds to just scrap that whole thing and then move on. But I think with a lot of indie books, everybody's just worried about putting out books and they're not worried about the books they're putting out.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, and, yeah. I definitely do.
So I'll look at my books and then I'll look at indie books from, like, say David Walker has written with like Bitter Root or something like that. And I'm sitting here like, man, I should be taking longer writing these because this is so well written. Or, and it doesn't just have to be someone, that's been in the game as long as him or whatever the case may be. It could be Kid Comics. It could be Purge. It could be, it could be anybody. And then it could be people who don't have books out right now, but are like amazing world builders and creators, like Vince White from the Powerverse. Is an amazing world builder, an amazing creator.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I know that we need to be on a particular level, not because we're trying to get noticed by whoever or whatever. It's because we want to be able to put out something that we could be proud of 5-10 years from now.
I love that because I read a lot of indie books. All right. And I believe everybody puts their passion and their all into their books and believes in their books. But a lot of them that I get are rushed. And if they
Right.
had just taken a little more time, maybe gotten an editor or had a friend who was good with editing or grammar, just glance at it, or just again started with like a almost like a story Bible, like these are the rules of my world.
Right. It's funny you say
it-
that. I was just thinking about that the other day.
yeah,
I was just thinking about making one for the universe as a whole the other day. There's a lot
Yeah.
to that. A story
Mhm.
Bible. There's a lot to putting together one of those. I mean,
Yeah. Well, especially for you working with I think you said what 6 different creators, 6+
yeah,
creators, and 13
6 or 7
different
different creators.
dimensions.
The good thing about
Huge.
us is all the creators are they're all on board with the vision.
That's good.
I don't have. I mean, I may have creators every once in a while come to me and say, you know, I want to do this and I want to do it right now. And I'll say, okay, have you set up everything for this? Like when Ashley Cheatham did this Grim Hero
Mhm.
on Indiegogo. We went from talking about it to him sending me a notification that it's about to go live. So we had to take like 3 days, him and me, and talk every single day about what needs to be done and what things we need to hit, and you know, all the beats that need to be involved and everything like that, so everybody knows what's going on. And because of that and his amazing hustle, because he is relentless, he was able to hit goal a while ago, and it's still pushing forward. But once again, it's because I tell every creator that we have that nobody gives a damn more about your project than you.
Mhm.
I care, but I don't care as much about it as you did because you came up with it.
Right.
So when I'm sitting here in the middle of the night trying to update the website or trying to do this or trying to do that, I have to do it because nobody cares as much about it as I do.
Mhm.
And me not doing it means it just doesn't get done.
Yep.
So a project like Zero Gravity from Charles Simpson is an amazing project, but he and I have to sit down and we have to talk about this and talk about that because the art is going to be out of this world. I'm telling you right now. Everybody who knows Charles knows his art style is distinct, and you cannot mistake him with anyone else out there. But the story has to be just as good and just as distinct, or it's just a big coloring book.
Yep. Precisely.
So we're going through that, and you know, just making things happen. Just making things happen. Elijah Manning working on getting us out there a little more with some more. We have a YouTube page that goes behind the it's called Behind the Pages, and it tells you about the characters and upcoming books. So we're gonna work more with that. So we're trying to make things happen, baby. We're trying to make things happen.
That's amazing. Dan Schmidt said, this is a great question. This is actually a question that I need to ask more of. How do you balance your time between writing, creating, and the business, marketing, administrative stuff? Because I know so many indie creators who just they don't pay taxes, maybe, or they don't have their business registered, and there's so much business stuff that you're not necessarily good at when you're creative. So how do you balance that?
Well, once again, coming from the filmmaking part of it, I knew I had to have a company. And I knew I had to register, and I knew I had to pay taxes. And that was one of the first things that Lonnie Lowe with Dark City Comics told me. You need to set up an LLC. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do this. So I did that a while ago. As far as balance goes, I don't know if I'm the perfect person to ask about balance, because we have artists from everywhere, from here to the Philippines to Africa to in the state. We have artists from everywhere. So we'll be about to go to sleep in the middle of the night, and then I got to have a 45-minute conversation with somebody who's in Manila because they have questions about pages. Or so my wife is a saint in the fact that she deals with most of that stuff. So what I have to do is I have to make my time available around my family obligations, of course. So I tend to do most of my business meetings on nights that she's working because she works nights. Or I tend to take care of a lot of things first thing in the morning before I start work. So I send out emails and I take care of this and take care of that first thing in the morning. Now, the creative side, that happens all the time. I'll have an idea at the job and I'll just write it down. I'll have an idea. I'll be at the gym and one of the partners will call me and I'll have to talk to them in between sets. So, but to be honest with you, I love that part of it. I love the constantly something happening, something going on. We're getting better with our getting everything out to everybody. It was a struggle at first, and we're getting over the big speed bumps with that. So everything is constantly a process. Everything is constantly a process. And thank God for people like Moana McAdams and Sean Mack and Lonzo Starr and Brian Lambert and BD. People that I can be like working an overnight shift, see that they're on Messenger at 2 a.m. and say, hey man, I just need to ask you a real quick question. And not one time has anybody said, dude, do you realize what time it is? What do you do? And they always answer, and then I'm able to move on from there.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you mentioned a little bit ago about collaborations and crossovers. So let's talk about it. You're in the middle of a crossover with other people. Nightfall Part 1 wrapped and is out in people's hands. At least the digital is. I'm not sure if the physical is yet.
Digital is. Physical not yet, but it's coming.
So let's talk about Nightfall. Well, you and Brian were on the very first episode of Broadcast from the Dispatch when we premiered in October, and talked about it. But some people out there may not know about it. So let's talk about Nightfall and let's talk about what's next.
So Nightfall is a multi-layered story about a group that are trying to bring an ancient evil into the world, and the group of superheroes that are trying to stop that from happening. And it involves a descendant angel. It involves a multitude of superheroes, but like top level superheroes, because it's going to take that type of firepower to stop this evil from coming into the world. And it's written by Brian Lambert, and number one involves Wingless Comics and Concept Moon and Constant Hustle, and that's all I can say, I think, without really giving up anything. It is well put together book. Brian really wrote it well, and all our characters got a very good amount of exposure in it. The next one is not only written, but it's already, Fabio has already started with the drawings of it already. So it's really moving forward. This is Brian. He don't like to sit idle for long. So we're really moving with this one. We're really moving with this one. So it's a great project to be involved in. It's a great project for Avery to be involved in, and we just like to surround ourselves with like-minded companies, like-minded individuals. Like the first convention we did, Comic-Con we did, our table was right next to Concrete Comics table. So we like to surround ourselves. And matter of fact, we were right next to Concrete, and then we were right next to TJ Sterling.
Oh yeah, great
and
comic.
On the other side of TJ was Wild Card Chronicles with Moana and John. So we were
Nice.
we were the Justice League against that wall over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was
Amazing.
We like to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals, and Nightfall is definitely a part of that. And number 2 will be on Kickstarter in February next month.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I cannot wait. I, of course, read number 1. I got an advanced copy of it, did an advanced review. And I got it. It was very well put together. And I love all the characters. They shined equally in it.
Yes.
Which is
and
nice.
That's one of the big things as a collaborative effort, because every creator thinks that their creation should is a great creation.
Right.
So you have to be able to relinquish some of the spotlight to other characters. I mean, that's the only way things come together. The Avengers is a perfect example of that, or the Defenders. Not as good as the Avengers, but still, it is a perfect example of how you have to. Everybody has to be able to tell their story or a story effectively. But Nightfall is definitely a project we're proud to be involved in, and we have a crossover of our own coming out within Constant Hustle called Eviction. That's being written.
That was my next question.
Being written by Dwayne Welch right now. Not just written. I'm starting to get pages from it, and it's going to be something. It's going to be something.
Can you tell us what titles that will involve?
It will involve The Last Line. It'll involve SF3. It'll involve Kasaya, which y'all haven't even seen yet. She's going to have a mini issue by Amber Hubbard, and that's coming out this year. And I think that might be it.
Okay.
I think I might have left somebody out. I don't know if Dwayne is watching this right now. He's probably sending me a message right now telling me you missed this, you missed that. But yeah, we're really putting stuff together, man. And it's not, like I said, it's not a fly by night thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not we're just putting this stuff together because we were a group of people who always wanted to do comics, and we're just going to put out one and be done with it.
I love that, because so many people, not so many, but there are a few people out there, and they don't hide it, that are getting into indie comics thinking they can be the next Marvel Studios, that they'll sell their creation to Marvel or to somebody and a movie will be made out of it. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but what I'm saying is readers love books by people who are passionate about making comics, not people who are passionate about making movies someday.
Right. And that's our aim. If we do anything, like we're talking about doing a small little snippet for of a movie based on the characters, but it is just for promo purposes.
Right.
Like you'll see it, and then at the end you'll see, the title for that book come up. So now that's a part of that book.
And for established characters like Onaji Rouse is, I think, doing a short film on Odino that's going to come out later this year. That's going to be cool. David Crownson, I think, is working on a short film about Harriet Tubman.
He already did it.
Yeah. So, well, he did the commercial for episode 5, but there's going to be more to it.
Right.
And so, like, stuff like that, I can get behind that. Like, that's cool to me. But just hoping you're going to sell it at some point to make a movie. No, make your own movie. Keep it indie.
That's basically what it comes down to. A lot of people, especially now with the superhero culture being so big, everybody, oh my God, my character would look so good up there with Iron Man or whoever.
Yeah, and they're good, but not everybody can do that. Like,
no. And people don't realize what goes behind something like that. Iron Man's up there because they took a chance with him in the beginning. It worked out well. 10 years later, Endgame comes up. People want to skip all that and just be in Endgame.
Yep.
So we're definitely.
There's a question here from a certain YouTube viewer, and I have a feeling this is an inside joke. Brian wants to know, how did it feel to lose the Nightfall cover battle? There's your answer, Brian.
Let me tell you about Brian. Right, Brian is a little gangster. Brian is the Suge Knight of indie comics. All right. So Brian said to lose the battle. So Brian came up with the idea for the first one. He said, all right, we're gonna each company is gonna have individual covers. Me being the oldest out of the group, I said, okay, now I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna bring some heat when I bring my cover. So you can sit back if you want to, but I'm telling you whose cover is gonna win. So of course, I being the old man, I got old with him, and I got OG, and then my cover came out, and he was a little hurt. Because it was his idea, and then I crushed his dreams of his character, I mean, his title being the best, or his cover being the best. So now we've done it again with the second one. Now we're going to do it again. Everybody's going to come out with one. He's already claiming victory, but we'll see.
We'll see.
I don't want to get him upset. I don't want him showing up at my door with his people.
Well, I'm pretty sure he lives on the exact opposite side of the country from you. So.
Like I said, Suge Knight don't care what side of the
That's fair. That's
you know
fair.
what I'm saying? I'm talking about old Suge, not new Suge, not now. I'm talking about like,
hanging people by their ankles over a balcony.
Yeah, that's the Suge I'm talking about.
I love it. Lawrence, tell everybody what to look out for in 2021 from you, when it's hitting, and tell them again where they can follow you, where they can get the inside information on everything.
Well, you can always go to www.constanthustlecomics.com. Facebook page, facebook.com, Constant Hustle Comics. We're on Instagram at c.h.comics. We're on Twitter at chustlecomics. Any one of those, the regular web page is updated with all the feeds from everywhere else. So you'll get all the information you want from there. I try to post daily. I'm kind of bad with that. That's why I wish I had somebody on the team that did that. I'm kind of bad with that because between everything else I have to do, it's hard to post to every page all the time, but I'm getting better. We are getting better at that. But yeah, we're trying to keep everybody in the loop. We have everybody who backed the Astronauts Chosen. That's coming out. The last of physical books for that, and we have DNA coming out in 2021. That's from Dwayne Welch. We have Grim Hero coming out from Ashley. That's coming out in 2021. We have the copies of Zero Gravity coming out in 2021. We also have The Last Line #2. We should have before the end of the year the Avery #2s as well. And I think other than the mini comics, that should be it.
Nice. And do you guys have a date yet when the Kickstarter for Nightfall Part 2 launches? You said next month.
Yes, and I do not know the date. Now I know I'm in trouble. I do not know the exact date in February. I'm sorry, Suge, about that. I don't know the exact date in February, but it is in February that it is coming out.
I'm just waiting for Brian Lambert to show up in the doorway behind you.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. Black suit, smoking a cigar, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. But yeah, it's coming in February. And basically we can't wait. We can't wait for that to hit, and we can't wait to further that story. And can't wait for you guys to read The Last Line #2 and Avery as well. That's going to be my writing magnus opus right there. Avery, the next one is going to be. So we can't wait. We can't wait for all that. Charles can't wait for y'all to read Zero Gravity. Elijah can't wait for you all to hear all the behind the scenes things about it. And then we have other creators that have like novels out now that are going to be converted into comic books as well. So we're not this is not a game for us.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Guys, if you're not following Constant Hustle Comics, do it right now. If you're an indie comic creator, Lawrence has dropped some gems of advice during this interview. Listen to it, take note, and maybe hit him up if you have more questions. Give him a little more work to do.
Talk to anybody. Definitely hit me up.
That's great. Lawrence, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate you being our very first interview of 2021. Hopefully getting this year off to a great start.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be the first one of 2021.
No problem, man. And again, guys, look for everything Constant Hustle has coming down the line. It's going to be a lot. Stay tuned. They're just getting started.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody out there. We are back with a broadcast from the Dispatch on Wednesday night. It's going to be our Indie Comics Dispatch and Friends night. So we're just going to talk comics and have fun and probably get kicked off of YouTube. So we will see you then. That's 8:30 Eastern on Wednesday. Everybody, we'll talk to you later.